What's up, my friends? Stay tuned, because what we're seeing in Detroit isn't luck, it's building. A group that started off doubted, patched together, and turned into the heart of this team. A defense that doesn't rely on names, but on attitude, playing with grit, discipline, and a chemistry few teams can match. Week after week, they're climbing the rankings, shattering stats, and making one thing clear: this team has identity, purpose, and soul. And the scariest part, they haven't even hit their ceiling yet. So get ready, Lions fans, because if this defense keeps up this pace, Detroit won't just be dreaming, they'll be contending. Before we dive in, make sure to drop a like to support the channel and show you believe in this team. And of course, with all kindness and humility, I want to see in the comments what you think about this defense that's silencing the entire NFL. The Detroit Lions defensive unit has become one of the biggest stories of the season, not because of star power or flashy names, but because of resilience, grit, and chemistry. Fans are calling them the Legion of Whom, a nickname born from the fact that so many new and lesser-known players were forced into action when 80% of the starting secondary went down. And yet, against the NFC-leading Tampa Bay Buccaneers, this group didn't just hold their ground, they dominated. The kind of domination that makes you realize something special is brewing in Detroit. Heading into the bye week, this defense has been consistently improving across every major statistical category. Before the Buccaneers game, they ranked 9th in total defense, giving up just over 308 yards per game. By the next update, they had climbed to 8th, cutting that number down to 300. Their rush defense surged from 11th to an incredible 5th place, allowing just 87 yards per game, one of the best marks in the league. They're also sitting 3rd in sacks, with 23 total, trailing only the Broncos and Rams. When you start combining those numbers with the kind of discipline and execution we're seeing from this unit, you can't help but feel that this Lions defense has found its identity. Even the points per game statistic tells a story. Earlier, Detroit ranked 17th, giving up 23.7 points on average. Now, they're up 5 spots to 12th, holding teams to just 21.6. That's not an accident. That's a sign of progress, coaching, and trust between players who were once strangers and are now brothers on the field. It's also worth noting that their turnover differential remains at +6, 4th in the entire NFL. Those extra possessions are making all the difference in how this team controls games. It's one thing to play tough defense, it's another to play smart football, and this team is finally doing both. Now, when you look deeper into the numbers, it's clear that the Lions aren't just surviving, they're climbing. For the 4th time in 7 games, Detroit's defense has cracked the top 10. They've been there in Week 3, Week 5, Week 6, and now again heading into the bye. That kind of consistency is something this franchise hasn't seen in years. It's no fluke. It's proof that the system is working and that the players are buying in. This is a unit that's evolving every single week, even while dealing with injuries and lineup adjustments. And that's the part that gets fans fired up, because when you can stay in the top 10 without being fully healthy, you know you're building something sustainable. But let's be real, as good as this defense has been, there's still room to grow. The pass rush, for instance, has been productive, but it's still heavily reliant on one man, Aiden Hutchinson. He's the S tier, the elite player every great defense needs. But as the stats guy in the video said, the Lions still need that complementary B player on the other edge, someone above average who can take advantage of the attention Hutchinson draws. Right now, guys like Alquad and Muhammad are stepping up, recording 5 sacks already and closing in on a career year. But others, like Marcus Davenport, have struggled to make a consistent impact. If Detroit can find that reliable second rusher, even through a mid-season move or development within the roster, it could elevate this defense from top 10 to top 5, and that's when you start talking Super Bowl potential. Because here's the thing, when you pair a top 10 defense with Detroit's offensive firepower, that's the formula that wins championships. This team doesn't even have all its pieces firing yet. The intermediate passing game still feels incomplete. They miss that consistent possession receiver, the guy who moves the chains between the numbers. Sure, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta have been phenomenal, but that missing piece in the middle of the field could be the difference between being dangerous and being unstoppable. It's the kind of small detail that separates playoff teams from Super Bowl contenders. Still, the trend is clear. This defense isn't just holding the line, it's leading the charge. They've battled adversity, adapted on the fly, and proved that depth matters just as much as star power. The Legion of Whom might have started as a joke, but it's quickly becoming a badge of honor in Detroit. And as the team sits at its highest defensive ranking of the season, fans can't help but wonder, if the Lions keep this pace, stay healthy, and find that missing B rusher to stand beside Hutchinson, could this finally be the season we see Detroit make a real Super Bowl run? because when you look at the numbers, the consistency, and the mentality of this group, it's hard not to believe they're on the verge of something special. The Detroit Lions haven't been known as a defensive powerhouse in decades, but this year feels different. There's a toughness in the trenches, a swagger in the secondary, and a belief that's spreading through the entire locker room. And it's not just talk, it's showing up in the results every single week. Let's start with the defensive line. Aiden Hutchinson continues to be the driving force of this defense, not just statistically, but emotionally. Every snap he plays carries intensity. Every pressure he creates sets the tone for everyone around him. Opposing offenses are throwing double teams, chip blocks, and quick throws just to neutralize him. But even then, Hutchinson finds a way to make an impact, whether it's forcing a bad throw, collapsing the pocket, or drawing penalties that swing momentum. That's elite-level presence. That's what the great ones do. But it's not just him. Players like Alquad and Mohammed are rewriting their own narratives this season. With 5 sacks already, he's on pace for a career year, showing that sometimes opportunity and confidence can unlock potential we hadn't seen before. He's not a household name, but within this locker room, he's earning respect week after week. Meanwhile, Marcus Davenport remains a bit of an enigma, flashes of power, moments of disruption, but still searching for that consistent production the Lions need opposite Hutchinson. If he can find that rhythm down the stretch, this pass rush could transform from good to dominant. The front seven as a whole is playing with discipline. They're not just getting after the quarterback, they're stopping the run at an elite level. Allowing just 87 rushing yards per game, the Lions rank 5th in the NFL. That's a huge jump from where they were early in the season, and it speaks volumes about the work being done by the interior line and linebackers. Guys like Derek Barnes and Alex Anzalone are reading plays faster, shedding blocks, and making tackles that prevent big gains. The communication is sharper, and the tackling technique, something that's plagued this team in past seasons, has dramatically improved. This isn't a group that gets pushed around anymore. This is a defense that dictates the tone of the game. Then there's the secondary, the so-called Legion of whom 80% of the starters were out, and yet this patchwork unit played like veterans against Tampa Bay. They tackled, they covered, and they didn't flinch. That's culture. That's coaching. That's belief. And when that kind of chemistry forms among backup players, it creates something powerful, depth that can carry you through the second half of the season when injuries inevitably strike. These aren't just replacements, they're part of a system that works because everyone buys in. What's equally impressive is how the stats continue to back up the eye test. Detroit's total defense sits 8th in the league, their highest mark of the season and their 4th time in the top 10 out of 7 games. Think about that for a moment. In years past, Lions fans were just hoping for middle-of-the-pack defensive numbers. Now they're sitting among the league's elite. The top 5 is within reach, and when you consider the offensive balance this team already has, that becomes a frightening combination for the rest of the NFC. The Lions are trending upward at the perfect time. The bye week gives them a chance to rest, reset, and prepare for the second half of the season, a stretch that will define whether this team can truly compete for the top of the NFC. The upcoming schedule features divisional battles and playoff-caliber matchups. Every week will test their consistency, depth, and mindset. But if this defense continues to hold opponents under 21 points and generate pressure the way it has, there's no reason they can't close the season ranked among the NFL's elite. And let's not forget, this isn't just about stats. It's about identity. For years, Detroit was known for heart but not execution, effort but not results. That's changing. This defense has the numbers to prove it, the attitude to sustain it, and the belief to turn it into something bigger. You can feel it. The energy inside Ford Field is different. The fans know it. The players know it. The rest of the league is starting to realize it too. So now the question becomes, what's next? Will the Lions front office make a move to bring in that edge rusher to complement Hutchinson? Will the secondary continue to hold up once the starters return and competition heats up? Can this team keep climbing from 8th into that top 5 defensive territory where true contenders live? These are the questions that will shape the rest of this season, and maybe, just maybe, the beginning of a new era in Detroit football. If you've made it this far, Lions fans, it's time to make your voice heard. Drop a comment below. Do you believe this defense is what it takes to lead Detroit all the way to a Super Bowl run? Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and stick around. We've got more Lions coverage coming your way. Stay tuned, because the story of this season is far from over. And as the second half of the season looms, the Detroit Lions stand on the brink of something that's been missing from this city for generations: sustained excellence. This isn't a flash-in-the-pan team riding a lucky stretch. The numbers, the mindset, and the execution all point to a program that's maturing into a legitimate powerhouse. For the first time in a long time, the Lions are not only competing, They're dictating the tempo of games, forcing opponents to adapt to them instead of the other way around. That's the mark of a contender. What's been most striking is how balanced this defense has become. Earlier in the year, teams were daring Detroit to stop the run. Now, opposing offenses are abandoning it altogether, forced into predictable passing situations where the Lions' front seven can pin their ears back in attack. That's when this group becomes lethal, when Aiden Hutchinson, Alquad and Mohammed, and the blitz packages drawn up by Aaron Glenn start collapsing pockets and forcing turnovers. Those chaotic moments are where Detroit thrives. They feed off energy, emotion, and aggression, all while playing smart, disciplined football. Even when the Lions bend, they rarely break. That's been a key evolution this season. In past years, big plays would demoralize this team. One blown coverage, one long touchdown, and the confidence would evaporate. Not anymore. Now, this defense shrugs it off, adjusts, and answers right back with a stop or a turnover. That emotional stability, that resilience, might be the most important thing they've developed under Dan Campbell and Glenn's leadership. You can see it on the sideline, guys celebrating each other's success, holding one another accountable, and truly believing that every snap can change the game. That's culture, and it's something that can't be faked. It's also worth noting that the Lions' depth has been tested early and often, and passed with flying colors. With 80% of the starting secondary out, young players and rotational guys were thrown into the fire, and instead of folding, they played beyond expectations. The communication, the tackling, the understanding of spacing, it's all improving. That's coaching at its finest. Glenn deserves credit for molding a defense that could plug in backups and still function at a high level. When the starters return, this defense could become even scarier, with more flexibility and confidence across every position group. And here's something every fan should think about. The trade deadline is coming. The Lions are sitting near the top of the NFC, boasting one of the league's best defensive units, yet still have room to add. Imagine if Brad Holmes decides to make a move for